want to talk at people. I want to talk to you, with you, and tell you about my mental health journey. Okay, so I didn't know about mental health until I was 22. Growing up, I always thought mental health was some crazy guy on the metro bus in St. Louis that talked to himself, military veteran or something like that. And I never imagined that it would affect me or my family. But then one instance happened in my life where my brother died 21 years ago. And I realized before he died, he had a mental breakdown. And that's when I learned about mental health, because I was like, what is this? What is going on that caused my brother to act out of himself and cause his own death, basically, his demise? And I didn't understand it, but I was going to school here at the time. And let me backtrack a little bit. I'm the baby of 6 kids growing up, and we're all around the same age from St. Louis. And we grew up poor. And when I say poor, I mean really poor. I mean 6 babies on 1 mattress, very poor in St. Louis. So very humble beginnings and lots of trauma within that scenario. And all of if you were here with Shay's presentation, all of the things she talked about with therapy and things like that, the stigma of Black families, I definitely experienced that growing up. Moving forward, so my brother passed away, and then I was at school. So he passed away, and I went home, and then I came right back to school right after the funeral and everything. And so it was almost like it didn't happen. And so I came back to school, finished school, graduated, stayed and got my master's, graduated, went back home, got a teaching job and started teaching. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling a certain way, like an emptiness in my life. And I didn't know where it was coming from. And one day with my ex-boyfriend, we were watching a scary movie. I don't watch scary movies anymore. Watching a scary movie, and it was a guy that was murdering a family, okay? And while he's murdering that family, he murders a sister. And for some reason, while this is happening, in my mind, I felt like he was killing my sister. And I started crying. And I wouldn't stop crying. And I cried all night, as if that was me, that scenario. And my ex-boyfriend at the time, he actually went through depression. And he identified it immediately. And he talked to me about his depression. And then he identified mine, and we talked about it. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And so he was like, you probably need to see a doctor. The only good thing about my ex, right? And so I went to a doctor the next day, because I knew something was wrong. And he went through that test, right? That test to see if you're, going through depression or not. It's that one test that you don't want to pass. But I passed it with flying colors, and he recommended I use antidepressants. The first set of antidepressants did not work for me. I felt like somebody else, and it was so weird. And I started seeing a therapist at the same time too. And I told the therapist, I don't know what's up with this medicine, but it's not working with me. And she recommended the right kind that ended up working with me just fine. So I started, and I realized it worked just fine. So since then, I've had 2 other bouts of tough depression. Now, depression, I'm not sure if you guys know this, is once you got it, you got it. It doesn't go away. It can lie dormant, but it can, depending on things, traumas, events in your life, it can get worse or better. And it's really important that you recognize when those days happen, good days and bad days, right? So depression is a common and serious medical illness that can affect how you feel, how you think, and how you act. Notice that I said it's common. It's common. 1 in 4 people suffer from it. So in this room alone, probably 3 or 4 people deal with it, whether they know it or not, right? And it's a chemical imbalance. It's nothing that we did wrong that causes something like that. It's just a chemical imbalance that happens as a result of things like genetics. You're born with it. Congratulations, you have depression. You're just born with it. PTSD. You just talked about that. And generational trauma. Shay mentioned that. And in my case, it was PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD 5 years after my brother died. Do you know why it was 5 years after? Well, let me tell you. I was here. So it was almost like it didn't happen. So I went back to school, like everything was normal. And then I went back home, and then I realized my brother's not here. I don't have him to go to. And that, caused that, I'm assuming, that chemical imbalance in my life. And a couple things. When I experienced depression, I didn't have, and this may be a few triggers for you guys. I guess I should have warned you a little bit before that, but because a lot of people have depression in different ways. Mine was, I didn't care about anything. And that's not like me. I care about everything and everyone. And I didn't care about anything. I didn't care what I was doing. I didn't care about anyone. I had no love for anybody, including myself. And I had negative thoughts, which I never have, but I was getting negative thoughts that I normally never have. And I knew it wasn't me. And that's the important thing about when you have depression is you recognize, I wouldn't think anything like this. What is going on? And that's how I knew something was wrong. And so got on medication, worked out perfect. A lot of people think that depression is a sign of weakness, and it's not. Shay mentioned earlier that a thing that Black women struggle with is, you're a strong Black woman, how can you go through that? I've heard so many people tell me that. And it's, I'm a strong Black woman, but, I got things going on in my life too. In my family, when I talk to them about depression, I say, I'm struggling with depression and, things like that. And they'll say, you don't have any kids. You're not married. You don't have any troubles. You're good. You got a job. You make money. It's like people in my situation still get depressed. It's just a different form of depression. And it's one thing that they didn't understand, which I had to explain to them and also, people that are close to me, my friends. So you think it could never happen to you, but how many of us have ever had negative thoughts? Right? How many of you have never wanted to, have you not wanted to do anything one day, just randomly? Or not wanted to take a shower? Or just didn't want to go anywhere, see anybody? Lots of us feel that way. When you're going through depression, it's not just one day, it's a long time. And it could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, things like that. I didn't experience that, but I could have if I would have stayed on that first ride. And so it just, people experience it in different ways. So if you struggle with depression or know someone that does, understand that obviously they didn't do anything wrong. And as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't go away. So like I said, I had 3 major bouts in my life, and I had to recognize good and bad days. So like in my relationship now, I had to talk to him, my partner, about some days, I have good days and I have bad days. In my family, we call it being behind the beads if we're having a rough day. And I had to explain to him, you didn't do anything wrong. I just need some time. And I'll go up to like one of the guest rooms and we'll just sit there without my cell phone. I just need some time. It has nothing to do with you. and that's okay. But there's certain things that you can do whenever you're feeling those low days, right? First thing, if you think you have depression, reach out to a doctor, okay? Reach out to a therapist. See if you might need medication, okay? And like I said, with the medication, if you do decide to take medication, it's really important that you stay on it, especially with teenagers. They have a risk of suicide if they just immediately cut off from taking their medication, and that could be dangerous. Understand that more people go through it than you think. And it's important to recognize the low days and what you do when that happens. Try not to stay in your dorm room. Don't be silent. Talk to people about it. I love the fact, this is my first time talking in public about my journey, but I talk to students specifically, especially when they're low. I say, hey, I have low days too. And they forget that we're people, right? And they're like, oh, you do? I'm like, yes, let's talk about it. And then that opens up conversation with other students about things like that. Ask for help. I didn't learn that till 2017 when I can ask for help. I was too afraid because I was that strong Black woman who didn't need it, right? And I am not afraid to ask for help anymore because I learned through lots of therapy that if you're struggling, no one can read your mind. You never know what a person's going through. And so it's okay to reach out and say, hey, I need help right now. I need an ear. I need someone to listen. And it's really cool because a lot of my friends know about my situation. I can tell them, hey, I'm having a low day right now. Or, I'll just say, hey, let's go do something fun. Let's go get some ice cream or something like that. So one thing I do is I surround myself with positive people. That's so important to do that anyway, whether there's depression or not. And then find things that make you happy and include them in your life regularly. Go for walks. It's a nice day today. Hopefully the winter is going away slowly. Listen to music. I got a record player a couple years ago, and I love collecting vinyls, and I like to listen to my records. That's just one thing I love. Back there is my crochet. I've been crocheting. I do that as a way to just self-care, just clear my head. I like to watch romantic comedies or like a comedy special where a comedian just makes me laugh like crazy. Love to do that. Things that just get me going. And then color, crochet, I talked about that. Meditation, yoga, they did that earlier today. And other physical activities is obviously very important. One thing I'd like to bring up to you, I had a counselor at my elementary school where I worked. She taught me to teach students this, and I'm gonna do it with you guys. If you could pass out a pen, and can you pass out a paper I'll pass out a paper to everyone. And if you want one in the back, let us know. I'm recycling paper, so. So what you're gonna do is take your hand, put it on the paper, and you're gonna trace around your hand like you're in kindergarten, okay? So you're gonna trace around your hand, and you got 5 fingers. So with those 5 fingers, you're going to write down 5 things that make you happy. Now, some things that make me happy might not make you happy. So you're going to write that down. And when I have students, when I worked in elementary school, when I had students that struggled with depression, and yes, they do, in kindergarten and first grade, I would talk about this, and I'd tell them, hey, write down 5 things with your hand that makes you happy, makes you smile, right? Your family, going to the beach, holidays, birthday, exercise. And whenever you're having one of those low days, you try to make sure you do 1 or 2 of those. Sometimes we need reminders, right? And that can be your reminder of things that make you happy. Things that make you happy, things that make you just feel good, right? Get those endorphins in that body flowing. So, what next? Well, if you feel like you're going through depression, or if you're not even sure, talk to your parents or a trusted adult. On campus here, we have wellness services. They are fantastic, and it's free. So when I go to therapy, it's $150 to $200. So when students go, it's free. So I highly recommend you go, even if you've never gone before. You never know. You might realize that there's some things you do want to get off your chest. So I highly recommend all students just give therapy a chance. Even though, like in my family, it could be a stigma, a thing that, you know, you're telling our family business, right? But it could be good for you if you do. Believe it or not, university police are amazing when it comes to mental health. They have the training to talk to students that are struggling. So if you need someone to talk to, get in touch with one of them, because they can talk to you and give you ideas and things that you can do, okay? There's tons of campus resources, and I am a resource as well. And you can find me downstairs on the second floor in the ODI space. My office is there. I have a beanbag in my office. Students go in there and they sleep, and they just relax and they hang out, and I'm A-okay with that. So if you need that, I'm here for you for that as well. So thank you so much for listening to my journey. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. Any questions? Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it.